This is Unit 1, Lesson 11, and in the last lesson we talked about rigid transformations kind of in general, looked at the three different types. And in this lesson we're going to focus on reflection. So the target for this lesson is that you'll be able to describe and draw a reflection by specifying the line of reflection. So let's jump into the lesson. So for Lesson 11, it looks like this, and you'll notice at the top it says Defining Reflections. Recall in the last lesson I gave you a hint, and that was to start the lesson by scrolling down to look at the summary. So you may want to read through that. I'm not going to read it for you. I'm just going to give you that reminder. Looking at the lesson, the opener, the 11.1, which doesn't belong. These are great activities for you to notice things about each of the figures. And there's not one right answer. There could be several. So I'm going to leave that to you. Take a look at these. Describe which of them doesn't belong and then explain why. Alright, the second part of this is an activity that would be done in class, so I'm going to skip right past that and start you at 11.3. And I'm going to read it to you and get you started, and then that's the end of the video. I'm going to leave the discovery of this lesson up to you to do on your own. But it says Kieran started reflecting triangle CDE across line M. So far he knows the image of D is D prime. That's what that little mark means, D prime. And the image of E, is E prime. So just to make sure you understand what I'm talking about, anytime you perform a transformation and create a new figure by moving it, reflecting it, rotating it, the new point on the new figure is D prime or E prime or C prime. So in this example, it's asking you, the first question says, annotate the diagram to show how he reflected point D. Now that just means, how does point D get to point D prime? So to annotate that, I'm going to use a line segment like this. I'm going to show you that I'm going from D to D prime. So I'm moving this point and reflecting it, flipping it over line M along this line. So what you're supposed to notice, and what you'll find if you read the summary, is that D is the exact same distance away from M that D prime is. And to figure out that distance, this line and this line M are perpendicular. The shortest distance between a point and a line is a perpendicular to it. So the rest of this activity says use a straight edge compass to move. Compass moves to determine the location of C. Slightly shade in that triangle, and then write a set of instructions. Again, I'm going to direct you down to the bottom to look at the summary. It gives you very specific instructions to figure out how far away from line M D is. Okay, I can't help myself but to give you a hint. From here all the way out to there, you can see that the distance from D to the line and D prime to the line is the same because they're both a radius of a circle. So again, I'm going to leave the rest up to you. Make sure that you look at the summary and review the glossary entries. And if you have any troubles, make sure that you either send me a Google message or join a support time, and I'd be happy to help.